Well, welcome to the 700 Club. The rift between the White House and Israel has expanded to the U.S. Congress. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed Republican senators yesterday, while Chuck Schumer denied his request to talk to Senate Democrats.
The Senate Majority Leader's action may have more to do with the 2024 election than Middle East peace. Chris Mitchell explains from Jerusalem.
The meeting with the senators came just days after Senator Majority Chuck Schumer called Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu an obstacle to peace and for a change in leadership.
I made it clear to him that it's not the business of the United States to be giving a Democratic ally advice about when to have an election or what kind of military campaign they may be conducting.
Senator Schumer clarified his remarks to reporters.
Well, let me say this. I gave this speech out of a real love for Israel, and if you read the speech, we called only for there to be an election after the hostilities had declined, after Hamas was defeated.
Republicans charged the upcoming presidential election prompted Schumer's speech. Wyoming Senator John Barrasso, referring to the Middle East two-state solution, said, "In my opinion, the two states they're most worried about are Michigan and Nevada, which are states that Biden is very worried about in terms of his own re-election." House Speaker Mike Johnson confirmed he's considering asking Netanyahu to address Congress, but he'll need Schumer's agreement. Netanyahu said he told President Biden in a phone call this week that he'll do what's right for Israel.
As I said, there were times we agreed with our friends and there were times we did not agree with them. In the end, we always did what was essential for our safety, and we will do so this time as well.
Netanyahu also said it will take some time before Israel's military launches its offensive in Rafah. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Wednesday the U.S. has submitted a draft resolution to the UN Security Council that calls for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza that's tied to the release of hostages held by Hamas. UNICEF spokesman James Elder lamented especially about the plight of child hostages.
I mean, you cannot take hostages, children hostages somewhere in a tunnel. The torment for those children, the torment for their families in Israel has to come to an end.
Meanwhile, in the north, the IDF announced a new brigade to counter the threat of Hezbollah and provide defensive and offensive measures on the Lebanon and Syrian fronts. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, I'll say this to Senator Chuck Schumer. Your statement went around the world, and how it was reported is you were calling for elections to happen right now in Israel. You want to say now it was clear that you were saying after hostilities. Well, no, that's not how this is being interpreted. And people in Israel feel betrayed. They feel that you gave aid and comfort to Hamas, and you sent a signal to them. If they can just hold out in their tunnels, they'll be able to win this and stay in control of Gaza. So that speech had an incredible impact, and Israel is going to remember it for a very long time. Well, CBN international correspondent George Thomas is in southern Lebanon. He joins us now. George, what's the significance of the area you're in?
Well, Gordon, as we come on the show, in the last 30 minutes, Israel has targeted the ridge of Al-Qiyam, right there in that distance, right where you see that ridge, 6 strikes in that one particular area. Behind me, Gordon, is all Hezbollah territory. This is the village of Al-Qiyam. I am in the Christian enclave of Kiala, and probably about, let's say, 2.5 kilometers, 2.5 miles rather, Gordon, in this direction is the Israeli town of Metula. From Metula, just in the last 30 minutes, Israel launched at least 6 either mortar shells, probably deeper into the southwestern quadrant of Lebanon. But this area behind me, in the last couple of days, Gordon, has seen extensive strikes by the Israelis. Why? Because this is all, again, as one very long-time member of South Lebanon told me, this is the playground for Hezbollah. And this is the sort of what we're dealing with right now on the Israeli South Lebanon border.
Well, what are you hearing? Are people there expecting an all-out war?
Look, both sides don't want an all-out war. The folks in this community, South Lebanon, they don't. I mean, you know, they've nicknamed the last 5 months what Hezbollah has been doing. They've been waging a war against the antennas of Israel. There are major antennas on this side, very close to Metula. Hezbollah has been trying to hit them over the last 5 months. Look, I think everybody in the region knows that if there was, preparation for a full-scale war, Hezbollah would have done it. So far, they've got a huge arsenal of artillery and ammunition, much more than Hamas has. Obviously, both sides don't want a full-scale war. They want some kind of a negotiation. Now, keep in mind, in this direction is a very important landmark. It's the Litani River. And back in 2006, when the two sides, when the last war between these two, between Hezbollah and Israel happened, there was an agreement, sort of the UN 1701. And the whole idea, Gordon, was that Hezbollah would not, in essence, be in control of this entire area. They would be pushed back beyond on the other side of the Litani. That is what Israel wants right now. Why? Because you have hundreds of thousands of Israelis who have been forced since October 7th to evacuate from the northern part of Israel. How long can they stay away from their homes? We don't know. Obviously, Israel is trying to tell Hezbollah and the government of Lebanon, look, we need to create a buffer zone to get Hezbollah way beyond the Litani River.
Well, Lebanon has a significant Christian community. You've been talking with church leaders in the area. How are they dealing with the fighting, and what did they say about the possibility of more?
Yeah, Gordon, they say, look, they just cannot believe it that once again Israel and Hezbollah are at war with each other. They say this has been going on for 50 years. They have been in a state of war for 50 years. Okay, maybe for a couple of years they've had some semblance of normalcy, but they're just tired of it. In fact, one of the main leaders, the patriarch of the Maronite Church, went on television and confronted Hezbollah and said, look, did you guys consult us Christians whether we want war? Of course we don't want war. One of the largest churches here in this enclave, I had a chance to speak to him yesterday to talk about the history of Christianity and what they are praying for. Go and take a listen. Here's what he said.
St. George's Church was established in 1890 during the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire came and went, but this church and the Christians of this area remained. We have been through a lot of wars and persecution. I'm positive nothing will move or remove us from here to what we dearly love, and that's our faith and our land that are protected by Christ.
And in fact, all throughout this part of southern Lebanon, Gordon, you see these beautiful hills of South Lebanon. And on many of the hills, there are these huge crosses that Christians have erected. And almost every hour, you hear the church bells ringing. Keep in mind, they're surrounded by Hezbollah. And yet they say, we are not going anywhere. You will not remove us by any chance. We are going to continue to stay here. And we're going to continue to pray for peace.
Well, George, stay safe, and thanks for this wonderful insight. That's a story I don't think you're going to see anywhere else. Thank you, George.